Let's go. Oh, morning. Okay, so far we covered all history, right? Of everything we need to know about life. The Eibishter net of Mitzrayim reveal themselves to them so that they should know and recognize and feel the Eibishter, and thus accept upon themselves to keep his Torah mitzvahs, and then build the tabernacle for him through which God should be revealed in the world, and eventually to build the third Beis Hamikdash, where not just be revealed, but in a permanent way that fills all of existence, so that everyone recognizes Hashem. That's the that's the tension. That's where we are. Yeah. So what we've learned so far is that the revelation of Hashem in Mitzrayim happened through Moshe Rabbeinu, and also Moshe Rabbeinu is also considered responsible for the future redemption. Although he's not the actual Mashiach, but he's still considered the one who's responsible for the future redemption. The Talmud says he's the first redeemer, he's the final redeemer. So we need to want to understand what's the meaning of Moshe Rabbeinu's role specifically. Why is he considered the one to? Why is he? What's his role exactly? And through this, we're going to answer a question we began with: how come the miracle of the Egyptians killing themselves is considered the greatest miracle, the beginning of the miracles? When many miracles happened before and after, why is this considered? Why is this highlighted as the great miracle? Why is this only a holiday that we celebrate according to days of the week? We celebrate according to Shabbas. We don't celebrate it according to the day of the month that it happened. Although there is a reason brought in the Gemara, but it must be a deeper reason, because everything there is precise. Must be some connection between this miracle and Shabbos, and that will explain also why this miracle is considered to be the beginning of the redemption. We're now up to Eis Hey on page Chav Daled. Abira Bezeh. Did I skip? I did skip. Excuse me. I skipped. Thank you. Eis Daled on page Chav Gimel. Okay. Yuvan the idea Biur Teichen Eine Chish Meisher Dumas Chish Al Inagul. We'll understand all the things we're trying to figure out by explaining what's unique about Moshe Rabbeinu, and his unique contribution must be similar to that of the redemption, and that is why the redemption comes through him. As is expressed in the book of Tehillim in chapter 90. Chapter 90 begins with that year the Rebbe began saying chapter 90, the year the Rebbe said this Farbrengen, the Rebbe began saying chapter 90 of Tehillim. So in chapter 90, it starts off with a prayer of Moshe, a man of God, and then the chapter concludes with, may the pleasantness of God be upon us, may he establish for us the work of our hands. That's Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. What's unique about this chapter of Psalms, among all others, is that it was said by Moshe Rabbeinu. There's actually not just one, but 11 Psalms that begin from chapter 90 until the Psalm of David Mizmer. All the Psalms from chapter 90 on were written by Moshe Rabbeinu. The move on, therefore, this chapter expresses the unique service of God on Moshe Rabbeinu, and the impact of Moshe Rabbeinu through his prayer, and the impact of Moshe Rabbeinu on the Jewish people in the world. So, talking about this chapter, we want to know what Moshe Rabbeinu is. Let's look at Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer, and then we'll figure out what his role is. What's Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer? What is he asking for? Talmud says that the last verse of this psalm, may the pleasantness of God be upon us. That's the blessing and prayer Moshe Rabbeinu gave when the tabernacle was completed. Amar Laha, Moshe Rabbeinu said, he asked, may the Shekhinah rest in the work of your hands. May the presence of God be upon us. You built the tabernacle. May Hashem may be your will that you should rest in the work of their hands. That means it was specifically Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer that caused the divine presence to be manifest in the tabernacle. And the word koina, established, means it's not just that it's resting there temporarily, but it's resting there from one generation to the next. And the Mishkan continues. There's a way Hashem rests in the tabernacle, and the way Hashem will rest in a perfect way in the third Beis Hamikdash, as the Talmud says about the third Beis Hamikdash, that the third Beis Hamikdash is connected to the end of the verse, and the work of our hands He will establish. He establishes that God says with the third Beis Hamikdash, I will build it, and I will rest. I will cause my presence to rest there, and it will never be destroyed. So Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer is that the Shekhinah should rest in the work of our hands, that the God should be revealed in the Mishkan, and not just in the Mishkan, but also in the third Beis Hamikdash. That's his prayer. Follow so far? Mm-hmm. That's Moshe. I don't know what's special about Moshe. Also, but his prayer. His prayer is about the Shekhinah being revealed in the tabernacle. What does that mean? There's a lot of introductions over here. So we'll understand this, understanding this, understanding this. We're going somewhere. Let's go. There's a we see a repetition, a double expression in the beginning of the psalm, and a double expression in the end of the psalm. The beginning of the psalm says a prayer of Moses. What's the next words? A man of God. Okay, Moshe is a man of God. And why does it have to say, once you say Moses, you're already saying a man of God. Why does it have to say prayer of Moses, a man of God? We know that Moses is a man of God. And also at the end of the psalm, it says, may the pleasantness of God be upon us, may the work of our hands be established upon us, and the work of our hands will be established. Why do we have to repeat it again? And the work of our hands will be established, right? There it is. There it is. Oh, you're fast too, Chase. Whoa. Okay. May the pleasantness of the Lord our God be upon us. Establish for us the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. Straight out repetition. Straight out repetition. Establish the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. What's the point of this repetition?
Establish for us versus
establish. Yeah. Explanation like this. In order to cause godliness to be drawn down to this world and to be revealed in this world in a permanent way, there are two things that are required. Two extremes, and not just you don't need to just have the two extremes to make this happen. These two extremes, there has to be a convergence of two extremes. In order for godliness to be revealed in this world in a permanent way, there has to be two different things which are opposites, and they have to converge. Aleph, there has to be a power which is above what is usually what is usually causing the world to run. And the natural way the world runs. There needs to be a revelation. There needs to be a power to bring in the world a revelation. Because the world naturally, I don't know, looking for a word. Someone told me the word, I can't use the word organically anymore. It doesn't fit. I don't know. But the world, the way it is a place of concealment. That's what the word world means. Oh, good morning. The word world, actually, this one. The word world in Hebrew means concealment. So for there to be a revelation of godliness in the world, there has to be some power which is beyond what is usually in the world. But add the shanas ta'elim, sheklil yilukus, the power has to this power that causes it to be a revelation of godliness in the world has to have the ability to change the world. The world should be receptive to receive this revelation. Befrad, the way Hashem made the world is that the world is always changing. The world has time. All creatures change. And the rule is that whatever exists eventually decays. Or as Ben Vachaye said, that the baby, the day he's born, begins to wither. Chas v'shalom. In other words, just the fact that there's change indicates that there's something which is going to not last. So, since the world, the way Hashem built it, is a place of concealment, and not only is it a place of concealment, but it's a place of change, and to cause a revelation of godliness to be here permanently, that would require something which is beyond what's usually animating and creating the world. Because the world naturally is a place of concealment, and the world is naturally a place of change. So for there to be something permanent, a revelation of Hashem that's going to stay here forever, that means it's something which is otherworldly. It's not something which is usually in the world. Yeah, base. That's one thing. It's one component that's necessary for this verse to be fulfilled. That Hashem be revealed in the world permanently. One thing is there has to be a much greater power that is currently
makes the world a world.
Make the world a world. Thank you. Base. Hakoyach. Trying to explain to my daughter last night. She was really well trying to figure this out. Look, trying to figure out.
I'm good to know where I'm
trying to figure out how numbers end. How can numbers not end? What are numbers? Why don't they end? Anyways, but Akoyach Tzarech Laredes. Then after that, I thought I satisfied that one. Then she went off to the ocean. How come the ocean begins, the ocean ends? Where does it mean it ends? Where does it end? Anyways, Akoyach Tzarech Laredes or Slavish. In addition to being some otherworldly kind of power, this very same power has to descend, and it has to be vested, and it has to be relevant to the parameters of the world, to fit in the parameters of the world. As is known, a general rule in Chassidus, that the mevarer has to be in the realm of the mizbarer. What that means is, in order to be able to cause a real change, you have to be relevant to the one that you're trying to change. So let's say, for example, the godly soul and the animal soul. So this says that the godly soul could only affect the animal soul if the godly soul is meditating on those things that the animal soul finds meaningful. So if the godly soul is just going to think about Atzilus, it's not going to have, it may ignore the animal soul, it may escape from the realm of the animal soul within you and be focused on something higher than yourself. That's nice. But in order for the animal soul to change, you have to talk in terms that are relevant to the animal soul. So, for example, instead of thinking about Atzilus and the truth of Hashem in the higher world, thinking about the animal soul is selfish. The animal soul isn't bad, just selfish. So instead of thinking about truth of Hashem in the world of Atzilus, thinking about how Hashem is our life. Hashem is good to us. Hashem is truth. Hashem is real. Or how it's beneficial. I don't know if you said Living Torah this week. Living Torah, the Shimshon Stakel was shown, shared how the Rebbe, he was told the Rebbe he's going to go to the movies, and the Rebbe said to him that let's learn together instead. And they learned together, and he said that the Rebbe was explaining to him that it's worth it for him. It's just good for him to keep there. That to make a change, you have to feel that it has to be in my terms. Good for me. It works for me. Like that you're telling me that people keep their mitzvahs, they have better lives. That talks to me.
It's good for the ego.
Right, exactly. Good for the ego. So in order to change someone, it has to be relevant to their ego, because that's what they are. So in a similar way, if we're talking about a revelation of Hashem, and we want this to be in the world, it has to be fitting to the parameters of the world. Only if it is relevant to the world can the world be a vessel for it, and can the world be able to hold it permanently internally. If the revelation is not in the realm of the recipient, it will not remain there. It will just, so to speak, hover over it, meaning not literally hover over it, but it'll be something that's like, like a think about an experience you have that which is like not something that fits into your seeing a miracle, let's say. Yes, see a miracle of the Abishur. People always say, if only God would show me a miracle. It doesn't work out.
That's every day.
That's every day, but it's not the thing that you need, because on the contrary, see a miracle, as those of us who've experienced miracles many, many times know, the miracle is something which is amazing, but it doesn't necessarily relate to me as who I am and my ego. It's something which makes me, like ignores my ego. It's beyond me. So in order for the revelation of the Eibishter to be permanently in this world, it needs to have these two opposite components. And the one has to be something which is higher than the world. And that's why it's going to be able to change the world and make the world a vessel for it, because the world naturally is a concealment of godliness. The world naturally is something that changes. So for this to be here permanently forever and to rest within the world and be revealed in the world, it has to be something really, a really great power. On the other hand, if it's going to be in the world, it has to be fitting to the parameters of the world. So really, in other words, it can't work. That's why I'm getting it. Can't work, because either is going to be something which is otherworldly and so powerful, and that's what's able to change the world. And that means also, by the same token, it's not going to be able to stay inside the world and be able to be relevant to the parameters of the world, because it's too big. It's something that the world can't handle. There's a line we say in our prayers, is a Chassidic song. My elders, they love that meaning. It means his greatness is too great for the world to handle it. His strength is too strong for us to talk about it. We don't know his greatness and his strength, so it's way beyond us. So if we're talking about something which is going to change the world way beyond us, so then it's not going to fit the parameters of the world. But we're talking about something which is going to rest within the world, in the parameters of the world, and then change the world internally. In order to make that change, it has to rest internally, it has to be limited. So how can it be both limited and infinite at the same time? So let's go further. These two concepts perhaps are the reason why the beginning and the end of chapter 9 in Tehillim are doubled. Because Moshe Rabbeinu himself, he embodied these perfectly and in a manifest way, these two elements. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who is called the intermediary that connects God and the Jewish people. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I stand between God and you. It's a verse in the Torah. I stand between God and you. To be an intermediary, you have to have the elements of the one. You have to have both elements of the two things you're connected. In order to connect something effectively, you have to be able to have an element of the two things you're connected. Yeah. So, in order to connect two things which are distant, you have to have an element of both. Like Chassidus usually gives an analogy of a teacher. In order for the teacher to be able to, in the time of the Gemara, when someone would give a lesson, it would have not just a teacher, they also have a Turgman. Turgman was someone who would explain the lesson to the students. So in order to explain lessons to the students, you had to have two things. You had to be able to understand the teacher. You had to understand the students. You have to be able to bring it down to the level of the students. So Moshe Rabbeinu was called the Mutzah Mechaber, the intermediary that connects us with God. And then there's something in Moshe Rabbeinu that is both godly and both human. Al Ish Lakim. By the way, I'm not sure the source of the term Mutzah Mechaber. I believe the source is in the Chassam Sefer. The Chassam Sefer, although he was considered a Torah giant in all circles, he actually has a relationship to Chassidim, because his teacher was a Pinchas Harwas the Balafla, was a student of the Mzitcha Magid. So many things in the Chassam Sefer's works which are based on Chassidus. So he in his work, he addresses the question: how is it permissible to ask for bracha from a tzaddik? Asking bracha from a tzaddik has to show was like idolatry, because you're asking for power other than Hashem. So he said that the difference between asking from a tzaddik a bracha or asking from anything else is that tzaddik is an intermediary that connects you with Hashem, versus another intermediary separates you from Hashem. But what does that mean? How does this? What is the meaning of those words? Intermediary that connects. So let's see further. Al ish lakim am chazal, im lakim lama ish lakim. On this phrase, a man of God, our sages say, 1 second, if God, then why are you calling him man? And if he's a man, why are you calling God? That's what Gemara is wondering about. The Medrash is wondering about which one is he? How can you say a man of God? Which one is it? Gemara, Talmud continues, says the Medrash, from his waist down, he was a man. From his waist up, he was God. That's what the Medrash says. Since he had these two components, the man of God, he was both man and God, he had both components in him. That's why he had the ability to connect godliness with the world, as it was manifest in the tabernacle that Moshe Rabbeinu made. That in the tabernacle, you see, godliness was able to be revealed because Moshe Rabbeinu had in him these two components. That's a word of the Talmud. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean not to to translate this literally.
It's not a minute 12.
There was I think I should have said with you before, but very briefly, it's made it to There was a chassid of the previous Shabbos. His name was Itcha the Masmid. Itcha the Masmid, he would go together with Ramesha Berdetsky, I believe, to collect funds for the free Shabbos institutions. And so what happened was that Ramesha, Rabbi Itcha would say Chassidus. He was a bit of an astronaut when it came to Chassidus. And Ramesha was a little more practical. So what happened was that Rabbi Itcha would go on in Chassidus, and Ramesha was left at the end of the Chassidus to make the appeal. But by the time he finished saying Chassidus, everyone had left. So Ramesha was making an appeal just to Rabbi Itcha himself. So what was the point of this? So he told him, he suggested the previous Rebbe would entrust them with this mission. Let's maybe I should say the Chassidus, I should say the appeal. I'll know how much they can handle and when they should stop. And then I'll make the appeal. Previous Rebbe disagreed, and he said, no, Itcha has to be the one saying Chassidus. I don't know if he qualified that with saying we should say less Chassidus or whatever. He said, no, yes, so why? Because he's a godly man. So let's try a godly man. So the Frierdiker didn't explain what a godly man was. Or Ramesh didn't know what that meant. And later, the previous Rebbe explained to him what he meant. The Frierdiker called over Ramesh, and he said, look, do you see over there? I said, what? You see the light over there? He said, no. So he said over there where he's pointing, Rabbi Fol Khan is learning this with his son Abiel, Olashon. And they haven't eaten yet today. Although they haven't eaten, they're still learning Tanya. So because they have such dedication to learning Chassidus, that even though they haven't eaten, they're still learning, there's a light of the Eivishter. And Rabbi Itcha would be able to see that light. That's the meaning of a man of God. Man of God, a godly man, that Itcha will be able to see that. Okay, you would think that Moshe is the man of God, right? Because he knows the people, he knows the Chassidus, but he knows the people a little bit more than he knows the Chassidus, apparently, right? That Itcha was able to see the revelation of Hashem in the world. The Frierdiker called him a godly man. Okay, so let's go. We're on the bottom of H down on the second column. We're going deeper into these words, a intermediary that connects us. The two extremes that need to be an intermediary are the two titles that Moshe Rabbeinu was given in the beginning of the chapter. He's called Moshe, he's called the man of God. Those two titles have to do with the two extremes that Moshe Rabbeinu needs to have to be able to facilitate, to be able to bridge together the revelation of Hashem to be manifest in this world. Next, although the term a man of God is the convergence of these two extremes, man and God, as they are in one person, in Moshe Rabbeinu, however, the word Elokim itself is not just referring to godliness, but it's referring to godliness as godliness relates to nature. The Elokim is a numerical equivalent to 85, which is a number for nature. So it's not godliness in its pristine higher state. Rather, it's what godliness is. 86. It's what godliness is manifest in creation. The godliness is limited to make the rules of nature, to make things run in an orderly way. The name Elokim is where godliness vests itself and animates nature. So when we say that Moshe is a man of Elokim, the Ish part of Moshe, his waist down, his man-like part of him, the man-like part of Moshe, that has connected with the world. That only connects with the godliness within creation. In other words, the lower part of Moshe connects with the godliness in creation. But not with the revelation of Yud Vavke, which is above the world. Hashem did create the world through the name Elokim. As it says in Torah, God in the beginning Elokim created. So that means that the creation is through a veil, a contraction, a concealment of Elokim. So Moshe Rabbeinu's lower half, if you will, whatever that means, in Moshe Rabbeinu, a lower part of Moshe Rabbeinu, that is able to connect with the way godliness animates nature, creates nature. L'idach Moshe, however, the word Moshe, which is written before the words "a man of God," what does Moshe mean? Moshe means I drew him from the water. Drawing Moshe from the water is connected to something far beyond godliness within creation. The analogy of drawing from the water represents how Moshe Rabbeinu is drawn from the name Ma, you name of Yud Vavke. I don't know why water represents that.
Water is the
Ma, Memhe,
it's the ether. It's separation from it.
In general, Chassidus says that which is beneath the surface represents something which is not seen to our eyes. It never says it's specifically to name Memhe. That means the way Yud Vavke, the way God's name is spelled in a certain way, so that it reaches the equivalent of the number 45. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes from, as Moshe Rabbeinu said Moshe Rabbeinu said, what are we? So why should you complain about us? What are we? So Chassidus says, what are we? Indicates humility. Of course, that's a simple translation, but it also means we are what? We are related to the name 45. 45 is the
half of mine. Mine is 90, right? Is mine 90? Is that the bunch of 90?
Is mine actually 90? Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's half of mine.
Interesting. It's a good guess. I don't know. But the point is, Moshe Rabbeinu, he comes from Yud Vavke. The way Yud Vavke is spelled in a certain way, so it equals 45. So when he said, what are we, means we are what? We are something. We are the level of Moshe Rabbeinu about himself. He's the level of Chachma Batzilus. And Chachma is made of the words Koyachma, the power of what? Meaning, in the level of Chachma, it says, Chachma in ourselves is our initial perception of something, our the lightning bolt, as the Zohar describes it. Chachma is the first flash of insight. So Chachma, vis-a-vis, as it is in the divine spheres of Chachma and Bina, Chachma is before there's any existence yet, just a pure revelation of Hashem. How Hashem is alone, nothing besides it. Chachma is the place, as Alta Bird physician Magid, that there's no existence yet. It's a place of what? There's nothing that you could define yet. Instead, Chachma is a place that the Magid Alta Rebbe is a place where there it's revealed how Hashem is alone, nothing besides. So that revelation, that's what Moshe means. So it's not the godliness, which is within creation. Rather, Moshe Rabbeinu embodies the truth of as nothing besides Hashem. Not the way Hashem's creating force, named Elokim. Rather, Moshe identifies with the name Yud Vavke, the way the Eibishter is higher than creation. I'll put that on top of that. See? Godliness which is beyond creation. Oh, mine is flowing. Okay, so let me try to do this.
It's a good thing. It's fine.
Okay, let me try to wrap it up. So instead, originally we thought that the words "a man of God," as the Talmud says, those two words are describing two elements of Moshe. Man refers to his lower part, and Elokim refers to his higher part, the higher part of Moshe. Now we're saying the double expression of Moshe and the words man of God are referring to two elements within Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Though the words man of God refer to the way Moshe connects with the way godliness is within nature, the way Elokim is numerical equivalent to the nature, and so Moshe Rabbeinu has a part of him which is connected to that revelation, to the lower revelation. And then there is the way Moshe Rabbeinu is called Moshe. Moshe is connected to in a Mayim Shisil drawn from the water. He's related to not to godliness within creation, but in Moshe Rabbeinu there's a revelation. Hashem's truth has nothing besides Hashem. That is revealed. That's the higher part of Moshe. So the word Moshe indicates the higher part of himself. And the word Ishalakim represents the lower part of himself. Further on over here it says, Blake, that as I mentioned before, that water indicates something which is covered. The place of the water as opposed to dry land is something we can't see. So that means Moshe Rabbeinu comes from. It's not a place where people live, like the earth. So the place of the water means that Moshe Rabbeinu comes from a place that's higher than the revealed world, higher than this physical world. And so as he is a human being alive in this world with a soul and a body, he is still like he's from the water. He's still openly connected to his divine source. Like fish who are always submerged within their source, so to Moshe Rabbeinu, he is always, so to speak, like the fish is always coming from the water, is always within the source. So the two titles, Moshe and Ishalakim, they indicate these two elements that we need to be there in order to facilitate this convergence of godliness to the world. On the one hand, Moshe Rabbeinu is called, we'll see Hashem tomorrow, but basically these two titles, Ishalakim and Moshe, they highlight how Moshe Rabbeinu has these two components in him beyond the world and within the world. Therefore, he's able to facilitate, as we'll see, the connection between them both. And to reveal godliness, he was one who was sent to reveal godliness in the world.